Moderator. One of the key matters considered by the Safeguarding Committee this last year was the Mackin report, the report on the handling of the abuse perpetrated by John Smythe within the Church of England, which led to the resignation of Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby. It was important for us to consider the 27 recommendations made by Mackin and consider the position of the Church of Scotland in light of them. The Mackin report confirmed that the abuse carried out by Smythe was first identified in the early 1980s. Despite considerable efforts made by individuals, both victims and clergy, to bring the scope and horror of his conduct to the attention of the authorities, the steps taken by the Church of England and other organisations were ineffective and failed to fully expose the risk, and therefore could not prevent further abuse. The recipients of the Ruskin Report of 1982 participated in an active cover-up to prevent that report coming to light. Further abuse could and should have been prevented, and yet Smythe continued to carry out criminal acts of gross abuse in Zimbabwe and South Africa. The key recommendations of the Mackin report relate to the abuse of positions of power and trust, that the abuse was hidden in plain sight, there was excessive deference to senior clergy in leadership roles and failures of leadership, and a lack of accountability for safeguarding. The cover-up occurred over an extended period of many years in order to safeguard the reputation of the Church. As we considered the recommendations, the first important difference is in our church structures. A Presbyterian structure of 3 church courts, Kirk Session, Presbytery, and this General Assembly constitute a massive divergence from the structure of independent priests, dioceses, and archbishops within the Church of England. The power invested in senior clergy within the Church of England is not replicated within the Church of Scotland. Sorry, Moderator. Our distinctive pattern of courts and separate church law are somewhat protective. The principle of mandatory reporting when abuse is suspected is contained within the old Safeguarding Act and explicit in the new. However, we can get better at this. Ensuring safeguarding training and a strong safeguarding culture across the Church will strengthen us and make it easier for all of us to discern when something does not feel or seem right. With regard to mandatory reporting of safeguarding concerns, we've had feedback from our safeguarding officers of situations they have been told about, and the caveat made that full information could not be shared with them as it was given to the minister in confidence in a pastoral situation. This is something that we will all need to reassess following the Mackin report. We need our ministers and spiritual leaders to be aware of their responsibilities to report concerns. A combination of working with Faith Action, creating the international protocol for the International Presbytery, and changes within the Safeguarding Act will help achieve this. Each year, the Safeguarding Service are involved in cases in which there has been a delay in reporting, or where Kirk Sessions and ministers have taken matters into their own hands and determined the actions which they believe should or should not be taken, sometimes in contravention of the advice of our own experts within the Safeguarding Service. Our Safeguarding Service is staffed by professionals who can give an independent review of a situation, unencumbered by the personal and pastoral relationships that develop at local church level. They offer safe, objective, and defensible decisions on safeguarding matters, something emphasised by the Mackin report. Additionally, we must learn from the never not clergy concern of Mackin. Too often, priests and ministers and others are allowed to continue in abusive relationships because people do not want to believe that a church leader, a colleague, even a friend would do the unthinkable. Within the new Safeguarding Act, the Recruitment Subcommittee, the arm of the Safeguarding Service which risk assesses new applicants for all Church of Scotland positions, including Crossreach, has been renamed the Recruitment and Risk Subcommittee in recognition of the work around risk assessing the suitability of individuals who are already in post for whom safeguarding concerns have been raised from sources other than Disclosure Scotland. We are risk assessing individuals in a range of ministries' roles and at different stages of training and service, and the current Act does not accurately provide for these circumstances. Over the last year, the Recruitment Subcommittee has dealt with issues of child sexual abuse through chat room exploitation of a minor, financial abuse and the abuse of power through inappropriate misuse of a congregant's property over a number of years, inappropriate touching of a sexual nature of an adult female congregant, and mental ill health. These have been by our own ministers and individuals at different stages of training and service within our church. Hence the proposal that the Recruitment Subcommittee should be named the Recruitment and Risk Subcommittee, since we are now assessing the risk of offending behaviour amongst those currently in post. The new Safeguarding Act is being proposed following reflection on the Mackin Report recommendations and implementation of the Disclosure Scotland Act of 2020 and the observations and challenges identified through the work of the Safeguarding Service. Our church solicitors have advised that given the number of amendments that would be needed, probably over 40, it was indeed simpler to draw up a new Safeguarding Act and repeal the previous from 2018. Safeguarding training has continued to be developed. We changed the name of the title of leadership training to ministries training to make it clear who this training is aimed at, aware that those in ministry roles are not the only people who provide leadership. We are reinforcing the instruction that those in ministry roles must report safeguarding concerns to the Safeguarding Service. Trustee and advanced training have been amended so that in future elders and ministers are required to attend only one and not both. For all practical purposes, the two shall be interchangeable. We are extremely grateful to our safeguarding coordinators and session clerks and presbytery safeguarding contacts and presbytery clerks and their staff for all the work that has gone into the Disclosure Scotland data cleanse. This vital piece of work was essential so that we could comply with the Disclosure Scotland Act of 2020, part of which took effect from April 1st this year. It is not, as at least one session clerk thought, that the Safeguarding Service has sat on this Act for 5 years without getting round to implementing it. A key difference in this Act is the use of regulated roles, not regulated work, and this in itself accounts for many of the changes within the new Safeguarding Act. There are also now designated places within the Act. So places like, for example, nursing and care homes are designated places, and those entering require disclosure checks, even if they're going in just to lead worship services and not being one-to-one with individuals. And additionally, some of those within the church offices will now need clearance if they are line managers of those in regulated roles. We apologise for the confusion around whether all elders would need disclosure checks. There have been prolonged discussions over many months with Disclosure Scotland over how the Act was to be implemented. It has now been decided that since the primary aim of the Church of Scotland is the advancement of Christian religion, and the benefit to children and vulnerable adults is secondary to that, that all elders do not require to have disclosure checks, unless they are specifically involved in roles working with children, for example, as Sunday school teachers, or in designated roles such as pastoral visitors to the vulnerable in their own homes or care homes. At last year's General Assembly, the Safeguarding Committee was tasked with reviewing and updating the 2009 For of Such is the Kingdom of Heaven report concerning managing those who pose a risk. A review of this work revealed that the theology of the report is unchanged. It remains valid, relevant, and fit for purpose. However, some of the processes and proportionality around the covenants of responsibility and the guidance relating to these required updating. This work has been undertaken following extensive consultation, and is detailed in Appendix 2 of the report. Finally, I would like to thank everyone for their continued work to make our church a safe place for all. I place on record my thanks to the staff of our service, especially our safeguarding manager, Debs Blackhurst, to all the volunteers across the country and beyond, and to my Vice Convener, Judy Wilson, who guides our training element with quiet confidence and commitment. Moderator, I submit the report, and as I am not a commissioner, I invite the Principal Clerk to move the deliverances.
I so move. Seconded.
Thank you, Convener. I have notice of 2 questions, one from Tricia Ingalls and one from Jonathan Clipston. Tricia. But
thank you, Moderator. Tricia Ingalls, what's my number? 325. I think we should know that after the week. I just wanted to ask the committee for clarity. I have a question about under Section 5, the safeguarding training. There's a table, and I just wondered if you could explain you're nodding, Deb, so you probably know what I'm going to ask.
We know there is a problem with the second type through. I believe it was correct.
oh, sorry.
Moderator, the convener might know what the question is, but I'm not sure the Assembly does.
Sorry, I want to be. Figure 3, the course is facilitated by volunteer trainers. It says safeguarding officers, but I think that should probably be introduction, trustee and advanced. Thank you.
It should indeed. In figure 3, the left-hand column should read introduction and then advanced and then trustee and then leadership and then train the trainers. So that is the details of the titles of the course.
Could I ask you to speak in? I'm just doing the same. Speak into the microphone rather than speak. Sorry, it just means we lose you.
The left-hand column underneath the column that starts with introduction should indeed read advanced, trustee, leadership, and then train the trainers. It was unfortunately a misprint that was not noticed. The formatting went awry.
Moderator, just to clarify, the corrected schedule is in the Assembly paper at page 73.
Right, thank you. Jonathan.
Thank you, Moderator. Johnny Clipston, 332. Can I start by saying thank you very much for an excellent report and for all the really good work you are doing on our behalf in this important area. I just wanted to ask a clarifying question. I think it's worth noting that the change on covenants ending, which have previously been lifelong covenants within the church, is a very significant change. But I think the work you have done on this is very good. And the way you have brought it to an appropriate end, I think reflects all the things that your report has said. My clarifying question is, you also note about entering into risk management with people who have not been found guilty of an offence. And it strikes me that somebody who has been found guilty could possibly be treated better than somebody who hasn't, because they have gone through things like counselling, through perhaps Stop It Now, review by the authorities and all these things, and as the report says, have appropriately come to a stage where that covenant can end. But if they've not been found guilty, when does that risk management with them end? Is my question. Thank you.
I am informed that resources like Stop It Now are available to people who do not have a conviction. The balance of the situation is that there is such a high level required for a criminal conviction. There are people who are recognised to pose a risk that have not been convicted by the courts, and we work, as do the regulated authorities on a balance of probability. So if people are still thought to be of significant risk, not only are the resources available to them, but action can be taken to monitor them. And we are recognising that and reflecting that in our work.
Thank you, Convener. I've notice of 2 comments, so we'll move to receive the report. So section 1 of our deliverance, receive the report. So that's received in both places. We'll take the comments. Irene Munro, Tricia Ingalls, is it another comment? Yes. So Irene and then Tricia.
Irene Munro, 377. Thank you, Convener, for that report. Safeguarding contact for Ross Legacy Presbytery and one who leads worship and care homes in that area. And the convener was mentioning that, you know, ministries are not just people already in leadership, but people we want to encourage into leading worship. I was thinking about the Disclosure Act, which now says that people who help in care home worship are targeting work, and now, so basically they are part of a pastoral group. And so we were told a little bit about this at the excellent drop-in centres, and I have to thank those on these drop-in phone calls and video links, because they're excellent. And I do think that the people in the safeguarding office are very accessible and very empathetic and understanding and great with their advice. When I wrote to the safeguarding office to ask for just a little bit more information about the care homes and those requiring PVGs now, and I mentioned that one care home I go to, 5 people come to assist me from the local church. And the reply was that they would advise, the safeguarding office would advise considering whether all who come to help me require to attend, and we require to be proportionate, they said, when applying for PVG for a group service or activity. And considering that care home services are a proclamation of the gospel of Jesus Christ to a church community within a care home community, I wondered, it sounds a wee bit like discouraging worshippers from assisting at worship, because not only do those who come assist me in helping with hymn sheets, helping residents turn over hymn sheets and books, and they take part in a service with a prayer and a Bible reading supporting the singing, and they enhance worship just by being there. But considering that we do want to encourage people who haven't perhaps had experience of any form of leading worship, a care home setting is a small and an unthreatening place to discover perhaps and encourage the person in their call. So I just wanted to make that comment, that I think in being proportionate, we don't want to discourage volunteers from any form of church work, but least of all those that involve worship and really outreach into the care homes. Thank you.
Convener.
Thank you for the comment. The decision is not ours. The decision is laid down in the Disclosure Scotland legislation that care homes and nursing homes are designated places, and therefore people entering within them are required to have disclosure clearance. We absolutely understand the important role that leading worship services can have in a care home as an initial step, as a non-threatening situation, and we absolutely would want to encourage congregations to continue to carry out those services, but it will be a requirement, and not our decision, but that of Disclosure Scotland, that people entering into care homes are required to have disclosure clearance.
Thank you, Convener. Tricia.
Thank you, Moderator. Tricia Ingalls, again, 325. I just wanted to thank the committee for such a thorough and informative report. I confess to having a bit of a vested interest because I'm a safeguarding coordinator and I'm also a safeguarding trainer for the Presbytery of Perth. I'd also, though, like to express my thanks to the safeguarding service. Being a coordinator can be a daunting role, There's so much legislation, etc., to learn and kind of get into your head, and then you're expected to stand up at session meetings and look like you know what you're talking about. That's when the safeguarding service come in. Anytime I personally have had a query or think, am I doing this right? If you phone them or email them, they get back to you so quickly, and they're really informative and knowledgeable, and in what they convey back. Likewise, we, as a coordinator, we will sometimes get, obviously, reports from somebody who witnesses or suspects harm or abuse. We need to pass that on to the safeguarding service. Again, they will always come back quickly to us with written instruction. Like the person that spoke before me, they also hold regular drop-in sessions over the year over Zoom, and they are really excellent. It's a chance for everybody to come together and kind of hear new ideas and share ideas and get advice. So if anyone's maybe sitting in the chamber today or online and thinking about becoming a coordinator, or thinking somebody in their congregation who would fill that role really well, then you should always have the support of your session. You should always have the support of your safeguarding panel. But ultimately, you'll always have the support and knowledge and guidance from this great team. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. We have received the report, so we move to section 2. I noticed a comment in the name of Peter Johnston.
Thank you, Moderator. Johnston 337. Moderator, I was very pleased to see in the report here the mention of the Mackin Review. And I had finished reading the Blue Book and had a bit more time before the Assembly, so went to read the Mackin Review. And if you haven't done so, I know there's a wee summary of the recommendations, but that really doesn't do justice to the work that's in the review itself. And in part, this is why we do safeguarding. And so when those difficult questions come up at Kirk session meetings or with others, being able to point folks to that really important work that has been done in that review, that's how to share with people why we do this. There are difficult questions that still come up. One of the ones we still are having is with students who have come over, and the parents maybe wanting to be involved in the work of the church, and the difficulties with getting the police checks done is a real detriment to us. But having this knowledge there to be able to explain, but this is why we do this, is so important. So thank you very much for heeding the advice that has been in the review and bringing our attention to it. Thank you. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you, Peter. So we turn to section 2. Do we approve? Approved in the hall and online. Section 3, we have a question from James Bissett.
Moderator, James Bissett, 507. First of all, I want to preface this question by commending the work of everyone involved in safeguarding for keeping us safe, and thank you very much. I am going to dance around this issue because I am absolutely not mentioning anything specific here, but I'm prepared to chat with the committee over a coffee maybe later. Are there any roles where a person who is subject to a covenant of responsibilities would be excluded from a role within the church on the grounds of public perception if it came to light that they were involved in the church? There was a recent incident, and that's as far as I'm probably best going.
Thank you for the question. We do not make those sorts of decisions with a view to safeguarding the reputation of the church. Each situation will be independently assessed depending on the individual, on the history, and on the situation within that church.
Thank you, Convener. So moving to section 3, approved in the hall, approved online. Section 4, approved in the hall and online. Section 5, yep, approved in both places. Section 6, a comment from Stuart Cutler, who is online.
Moderator Cutler 208. It's my great pleasure to be the chaplain of the Boys Brigade in the UK and Republic of Ireland. So I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the Safeguarding Service for all of the help that they have given the Boys Brigade in reorganising its safeguarding procedures, but also to thank the committee for affirming the relationship that the Church of Scotland has with the Boys Brigade. We feel that it's a hugely important relationship, and we want to take the opportunity to thank them for affirming that. And I would commend the work of the brigade to everybody in their churches. If you want to work with young people in an effective way, then the Boys Brigade is always a good opportunity to do that. So thank you to the committee.
Right, thank you. So do we approve section 6? Yep, approved in both places. Section 7? Approved in both places. Section 8? Approved in both places. The report as a whole? Deliverance as a whole, sorry. Thank you. So approved in both places, I should say. Thank you, Convener and Committee. Can I just say, I'll just give you a plug, because I did my ministry safeguarding training quite recently, and I'll be honest. So initially I was quite daunted by the amount of pre-reading, and it was a full day's training, but I have to commend it as absolutely excellent. It's the best safeguarding training that I have done. So thank you. And can I encourage all my colleagues, it is absolutely well worth it. So please, please, please sign up and do it. So thank you.